We're ready to get started, guys. You guys pumped? So my name is Ruckus Sky. If you don't know me, you're in for a treat. We haven't been introduced yet, so you can't talk. This is I got a clipboard, so put together. Okay. A lot of people asked about my injury. Yes, I got a nasty paper cut reading Godfall. I can't comment because there's a lawsuit, but Van and I are good. It's just for the publisher. So one more thing. I asked when Van asked me, I said I was very honored. Can I make it all about myself? And he said yes. So that's what I'm going to do. I did one quick story, and then we'll introduce Van. In the mid '90s, I saw Alice in Chains at the Masquerade, and they weren't big enough. They were too big to play the Masquerade, but they weren't big enough to play big venues. So what they did was they hung a sheet from the stage, and then that way you didn't see the band come out. And then as the song started, they dropped the sheet. So Lane's going to help me introduce Van the way we should do it. And Van specifically requested Star Wars sheets. Because Van is too big for the Auburn Research Library, but not big enough for Fox Theater yet. And so here we go. Van Jensen is an award-winning author of graphic novels and comic books, including classic properties such as James Bond, Superman, The Flash, and Green Lantern, as well as original properties such as Two Dead, recently released Arca, read that one, and the acclaimed all-ages series Pinocchio Vampire Slayer. His debut novel, Godfall, which we're going to talk about tonight, is the subject of a Hollywood bidding war, and the rights going to Imagine Entertainment. With Academy Award winner Ron Howard directing the TV series. Please welcome Van Jensen.
Okay, that was the most collected thing. I think we should walk off. It's all downhill. Wait.
Okay, so I'm very curious. Lane, I've been very fortunate to know you for a long time. I'm going to follow your work, and there's always this equal amount of appreciation for your talent and rooting for you and insane jealousy. That goes to, and right now that third one is really going. But let's start with Godfall. I always love to know what was the very first smallest seed of the idea, the very first time.
So there's this thing about having children that it's like the absolute best thing in the world to have kids, but it also comes with just like endless supply of viruses. So this is like 7 years ago. We had a run of, probably like the flu or RSV or something going through the house. And I was just really, really sick. And I was in that, like, I don't know if I'm awake, I don't know if I'm asleep, I'm like just feeling terrible. And I had been reading in the news, there was this story about this asteroid that was like passing near Earth, and there was an image of it, and it looked like a skull. And I think that was what was in my head. And I had this kind of like fever dream of, it was very like crystal clear, of this thing heading towards the Earth that then it's humanoid, and then it lands next to my hometown, and it's this giant alien, and it's just dead. And I came to enough and was like, well, I don't know what that is, but it's a thing, and I am absolutely writing that book. Well, actually, I said I'm writing that comic book, and I tried to do that, and it was really bad. And then I tried to write a TV script for it, and it was really bad. And then I said write a novel.
So there are complete drafts of a comic and a TV script?
Yes, that no one
will ever see, but that's so cool. I love hearing about alternate versions of what could have been a different version of whatever project. So when you got to the book, so you did a comic book, TV, and then you said this is going to be a novel?
Yeah. So
never a feature? You thought the TV was?
Yeah, that would have been if I had failed at a novel, then feature, then video games,
right.
Then tabletop game.
Okay. So knowing there were those versions, when you went to write a book, did you start from scratch? Or were there elements from those two that made it into the novel?
It was really start from scratch. But it kind of, I'm just not precious as a writer. So I don't, if I write something and it doesn't work, I'm never like, oh, like, let me, like, I can't, I can't ruin this, or I have to like get some value out of it. To me, just writing something that doesn't work is valuable because I learned what doesn't work.
Mhm.
So, you know, it was like, okay, like that was really bad. Let me do something totally, you know, and I knew it was this sort of core thing. And then I think the thing that really helped me figure out the novel was this idea, and I have a good friend, a writer, Rob Venditti, who's a comic book writer, and I was talking to him about it, and I was sort of writing it from this perspective of like an outsider returning to this small town, and he's like, no man, make it about that sheriff character, like make it about the local who then has to deal with this, and so I think it's always for me, you know, character leads everything. Like you have to have that compelling character who's struggling with stuff, who's making hard choices. And so the second it was like, oh, like I know that guy. I know that guy that just wants to be like the guy that keeps his hometown together. So yeah, like exploring that perspective became really, really easy and fun.
So the comic and the TV pilot were not from.
Yeah, it was like an FBI agent like coming to this town.
Right.
After this, it was like someone who had been from there and moved away and then coming back.
Right. Yeah, that was a good choice.
It was
Yeah.
Yeah, like always 2020. Like yeah, that's obvious. Why didn't I do the right thing?
So this is your first published novel. Have you written a novel before that wasn't published? Two completed.
Very bad.
Very bad. Like all the way to the end. I have a novel hide in the drawer.
Yep.
Okay. And so, did you approach this one differently?
I wrote it better. I sucked less, I guess. Well, I mean, I knew what I was doing. In some respects, I mean, I you know, I didn't study creative writing ever. I'd say journalism, and so it's been really like figuring stuff out on my own. But I think I always had a capacity to like string sentences together and to see, you know, just writing a ton of journalistic work, like churning out work every day, and I care about how sentences sound. So even like a police report, like you know, trying to make it good. But so I think I just, you know, I had those two craft novels under my belt, but I also had a whole bunch of comic books under my belt. So I had a much better handle on how stories work, and, you know, how they feel. But even like this novel, I wrote it and rewrote it 3 times.
Completely, like page 1?
Yep.
Wow. Well, I was going to ask later, but I'll ask it now. Like along the way, were you getting feedback from other people, or was it just your drafts? And did you get some amazing feedback that changed the way you rewrote?
So that guy Rob, the writer friend, I wrote the first like I maybe had like 100 pages written of the first draft, and I sent it to him, and I said, and he's, you know, you have to have those friends who are like, you're a discerning reader,
right?
I trust your judgment. And I said to him, I was like, hey man, can you read like 10 pages even, and just, or even like 5, and just tell me like, does this suck so bad that I should stop, and not just like stop this book, but like stop writing prose, period. and so he said, Dan, it's good, you should keep going. But then I had a lit agent at the time, and part of why I wrote this book so long ago, and it's only just now coming out, is I had a literary agent who just didn't read it, so that was not helpful. And then actually my mother-in-law was one of my earliest test readers, because she reads murder mysteries, like she reads, you know, kind of like mass market murder mysteries, and I wanted this book to have that like smarter, you know, like some highbrow elements to it, but I also just wanted to be like kind of a rip-roaring, you can enjoy it read. And so like Beth reads those books and loves them, so if I can get that, she also will like absolutely say what she thinks. So
nice.
Yeah, like if she didn't like it, she'd be like, well, I didn't like it that much.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, you tried really hard at that. So she liked it. And then yeah, I had different, and even we had like some early like sent it to some editors who read it and had some notes. So yeah, I got a lot of good help along the way.
Was there a point, and I always ask this, especially in a novel when it's one of the bigger endeavors. I mean, comics are a lot shorter, and even screenplays are a lot shorter than a novel. Was there ever a point at which you actually completely lost faith in the project and did give up, or did you ever never wavered on that.
I mean, the thing that's, I guess, tricky about writing is like I lose creative faith in ideas or like projects all the time where I'll get started on something or I'll be thinking about something where I'm trying to turn it into a story and trying to figure it out. And then I'll just realize like, okay, that's not actually that good. But by the point where I get to where I'm going to actually write, like spend the time to write something and finish it all the way through is because I believe it's really good. But like, just because I believe something is good and think it's good, and it could even be that, you know, a decent number of other people think it's good, but that doesn't mean it's going to turn into anything. Like good stuff fails all the time. There's a degree of luck involved. So this was one where I always thought it was good, and the people who read it were like, hey, this is really good. But it just seemed like it was just like kind of one pitfall after another. And so, you know, I think I had gotten to a point where it's like, well, if I can get it out from any publisher at all and just like get it out into the world, then it's at least like out of my hands and I can go write another book and kind of forget about it. But yeah, I certainly did not think it was going to be any like significant thing.
Right. Well, that's what freaks me out about the creative process is you had that fever dream, and what if you just didn't even remember it when you woke up, or you just like, it's not that great of an idea, you know?
I will say, like, we'll have those like, you know, half asleep, like, oh, I got to remember this.
Right.
And there was one night I remember that I had one of those and I was like, I have to lock it in. And I have to really, really remember it. And then I woke up the next morning and it was like, I remember the thing. It was a dog collar that had a speaker on it. There was like stupid. There was like a Bluetooth speaker to play music on a dog. It was like, this is a stupid idea. Right. It was like, why? But in my head, it's
genius.
So I think that most of those ideas are terrible.
Yeah.
So I don't lose too much. I'm like, most of those are garbage.
Right. But it still freaks me out because
there could be.
There was that one moment where you could have said, that alien thing's not that great, and then you know, you would have robbing people of the magic. So when you went to write this, was it extensively outlined, or were you kind of dancing your way through it, or were you?
I outlined a lot.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think like my wife and I were just talking. She was talking about like the famous Stephen King quote about outlining, that he's, you know, he doesn't believe in outlining. I think that there are people who innately understand story structure and who just like, you know, can kind of do it without formally doing it. But I think especially for writers who are maybe not as grounded with story structure, like that's like a path to ruin. I mean, you're a big believer in structure.
Oh yeah, totally. But I feel like the people that don't outline, that are just kind of writing, end up doing the same amount of work in the end. I think they end up rewriting. Yeah. It does feel like if you stop and outline, you're like, God, I just want to write the draft. Like, you know, it feels like but a couple of times when we skip that, I always regret it.
Well, I just always say storytelling and writing are two distinct disciplines. And
that's a quotable quote. I'm gonna put that on the wall. Van Jensen. Say it again.
Storytelling and writing are distinct disciplines.
Yeah.
There we go.
Tattoo.
Yeah, get that in Old English across your shoulders. Well, but they are. So it's like you can tell a story without writing it, and you can write something without telling a story. Absolutely.
Right.
Look at any email ever. But so people get in this place where they're both doing storytelling stuff and solving storytelling problems, and doing writing stuff and solving writing problems, and it's all mixed up. And when it's all mixed up, it just becomes harder because you're like, you can't understand, like you lose sight of which is one and which is the other. And I don't know, I always use this analogy. There's a point on creative projects, if you don't have any kind of structure, where it starts to feel like you have like this big table in front of you that's covered in sand, and you're trying to build shapes and like designs in the sand, but then you have like, oh, I need to do that, and you drag your hand, like you drag your elbow through that neat thing that you finished there, and you're just like, everything's amorphous and everything is falling apart. But so the outline, the structure, to me, is so necessary. Like, I need to know what this thing is and the way it's going to move. And we're also like, you're really big. I mean, you taught me a lot about character choice, like really through lining, like the choices that the characters make, and let that lead the story.
Did you guys catch that? I taught him something. For the record.
Number one, how to intro a discussion.
Yeah. When you were writing the book, were you also, I know you juggle a lot of writing projects at once, or you want to focus, it's very hard for us to write anything more than one thing at a time. When you're writing the book, I assume it was over a period of time. Were you also doing other creative work?
I was probably, I think at that period I was still writing some monthly stuff. Like I was probably writing the Flash for DC. So I assume, it's hard to remember, but I think I would have like this chunk of the week that I would like write an issue of the Flash, and then I'd have like, okay, these 3 days I'm gonna write the novel. And I think it took me like 3 to 4 months to write the first draft of it, and I was like,
well, that's still pretty fast, I would think.
yeah, I mean, I tend to write pretty fast.
Yeah, I'm always pretty impressed with how quickly you get drafts out. Is there anything about your typical writing day, whether it was with this book or just in general, that you think would surprise people?
About my writing day?
Yeah, just your daily writing habits or routines, or
probably how little time I spend writing.
just a focus.
Yeah, like I have these like 90-minute like power windows of where I'm just like if I can shut the world off and like turn my Wi-Fi off and just like hyper focus and go, then I can get so much done in 90 minutes. But it takes me a little bit to build up to that sprint. And so, you know, if I can do 2 of those a day, I mean, I could write a novel in a month, easy. And then, but it's kind of like it's such deep focus that by the end of it, like I'm just like burned out my brain.
Right.
And after that, like I could do like an answer emails and other stuff, but I'm kind of like spent.
Right. A limited amount. I mean, during the 90 minutes though, how you can't check Instagram. So I don't understand. I don't understand. It does not compute. So we're gonna mix it up a little here. By the way, like this Van has no idea what's happening up here.
I know.
He has no idea what's about to happen.
I thought we were gonna start with the mystery box.
Well, the mystery box is everything.
Is it?
Is everything.
It's
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you to read. This is my one bullet pick of the book. I'm gonna ask you to read only the highlighted portion.
Oh no. In the small house at the edge of town, David found Tabby in the living room, curled up on the couch.
The Tabby was not a cat.
Tabby was not.
And that was my big
Oh,
okay. I was like, oh cool, there's a cat. I was like, oh, it's his wife. There's cats later, but Tabby, and I would say, you would tell me as the author, if Tabby was a cat, probably would have not left David for a marijuana farmer later. Spoiler alert. Oh, yeah, we're keeping it pretty light.
We can.
Pretty light.
There is a marijuana farmer. Hey, did she leave him or did he leave her?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, spoiler. We won't say.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question to the audience. We're gonna play a little game here. Okay. Do you only raise your hand if you like both cats and Christmas? Okay, so Van, you get to pick 3 people to play.
Okay. Let's go. All right. We'll go Alex and Gray and Michaela.
All right, you guys are playing for this Christmas ornament with a cat on it. Let's see. This is going to be right now. Godfall. You can get it from the Libby app at the public library. And what you guys are guessing is how many weeks it's on hold, because you can't get it immediately. It's on hold. So you guys, and we're doing Price is Right rules. So closest without going over, how many weeks do you have to wait? I currently have it on
Which library system?
Los Angeles.
Okay,
Los Angeles. Yeah, I still have my Libby app from LA. So that's the number.
Okay.
So you can pick who goes first. Closest without going over.
We'll go front to back. So Michaela.
I'll say 6.
Gray.
I'll go 8.
Alex.
32.
7.
Congratulations. Oh man. All right.
What other the lights.
Oh, man.
Wait, it's a mystery behind the mystery box.
We got no running them today. We're looking at the mystery box. So, Nebraska as a setting, small town, is this similar, I guess, to where you grew up? Yes or no? Like how Little Springs is not.
Yeah,
Real,
it's I would say a pastiche of my hometown, which is Llewellyn, and Oshkosh, which is the county seat, the big town of 600 people. And then there is a town called Big Springs that's a little ways away.
So this is the play of reverse of Big Springs.
Yeah, and so I have a friend, like, I mean, it's really like the one guy from high school that I still talk to, and he said he told one of our classmates about the book and like sent him an article about it, and this guy Trent doesn't that idiot know it's Big Springs? It's only compliment.
Not the jealousy.
Stay classy.
So was that setting and being in Nebraska specifically always part of the initial idea, or was that something
Yeah.
decided on later?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was from that dream, that vision. It was like, what if this happened next to my hometown? And then I just like the idea of, if you take this place that is, would be referred to by everyone as the middle of nowhere, and like, what if overnight that becomes the most important place on earth? And how would that transform everything? That was just such a fascinating thought exercise. And then also this way, I mean, I was writing a lot, like probably 2017 on, or 2018 on. And so, it was a point where I was really interested in this idea of like urban rural divide, like how this situation would force urban people and rural people to be forced to coexist. And so, yeah, I don't know, it became fascinating to me, and that was so essential to it.
Was the sheriff character in your early versions?
Yeah.
So you just decided to refocus it on him. And then we always struggle with this because we always write everything's in small town. We always put sheriffs, but it's like, should it be police, or is it always the sheriff?
If it's a small enough town, it's going to be a sheriff, because in very rural areas, sorry, we're getting nitty. And I was a former crime reporter,
right?
so
Exactly.
I know this stuff. So police are in cities or like a big enough town, but sheriffs, their purview is the county. So every county will have a sheriff's department, but some places, like the towns, are so small that rather than having police and a sheriff, they just have a sheriff.
We had I had a friend who grew up in a rural Florida, and they had a sheriff who was on duty 3 days a week. Around when you're kind of switched the rest of the
And those other 4 days are like the purge.
like crime rate. Okay, talk to me thematically about what, like, if you just, I love hearing everyone who reads something or watches a movie has their own takeaway, but like, what did you want? When you set out, do you think of those terms when you started, or is it something you think about after you've written it? What was I writing about?
Well, so this is just a funny thing that just came up today.
Okay.
So, relative to theme, I try to put a lot of thought into theme, but there are also absolutely times that people take stuff away from books that, you went on a journey. So I have a buddy who's an English professor at Wake Forest, and I went up there a couple of weeks ago. He invited, he was teaching Arca, my graphic novel, to this sci-fi class, and he got a grant for me to come up and talk to the kids and all that. And he had a student who wrote a paper, or like their final paper is on my book, which is so cool. Such an honor. He said, so he sent me a text today. He said, I just created a paper about how Arca is truly about Haitian history. Great. Like, I'm so smart that I wrote a book about.
Did you get to read the paper?
I haven't yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to.
Yeah. You gotta frame it. Put it in.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, kid. Like, I'm not that bright.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, yeah, like, I totally hijacked that. But yes,
That's what's beautiful about art, I think. Is people can take. I mean, that probably really meant something to him. Enough to write a paper. That's amazing. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I poke fun at it. It's like the coolest thing ever that book connected with something.
Yeah. So with Godfall, what were you intending when you set out to write it, or what were you wanting to explore?
I mean, so that urban rural thing
Mhm.
was a lot of it, but then also it just has a lot to do with faith. Because, you know, it's like, what if this thing that is, you know, what we would consider to be miraculous, right? That redefines our conception of reality and of the universe, of existence, like just like falls in our lap. And is undeniably real and like tangible. Like how does that, like, I mean, Godfall, the title is like a, you know, God falls out of the sky. Like how does that change not just like literal things, but how does it affect people? Like how they go about life? Because I don't know. I mean, we're in a place culturally where I don't know that I would call it a crisis of faith as much as just a time where faith is like waning pretty significantly across the Western world. And faith has been such a huge part of society and culture going back through all of human's history. So, I think that's something that I grapple with, like personally. Like, there are days where I feel very faithful, and there are days where I feel, you know, very full of doubt. So I guess like that's kind of the core of it. And then, you know, so the sheriff character, I think there's this through line in almost everything that I write, where he's, you know, he's like the tough, small town sheriff guy, but I'm also just very interested in, like what it means to be masculine and to be a man in like a modern world where masculinity is really changing. And so it's a lot of like him being forced to recontextualize his entire existence. It's like, I mean, basically like having to interact with people that will not put up with his bullshit or any bullshit. And so just having to completely, like change the way. Sorry, I've been trying to keep it really clean for the kids. That was slip past. I told you it was going to be me.
Yeah, you thought it was gonna be you. Okay. We got another mystery box moment here.
You needed like a bell or a buzzer.
Oh yeah, I know. Okay, so okay, so raise your hand in the audience. Wait till I complete the question, because raise your hand if you're interested, if you're curious in joining a cult, but you're still on the fence and you need a little more information. Okay, we got a couple.
All right.
Okay.
So Lynn was real quick.
Can I have someone with a timer? Someone set 15-second timer.
I see Kyle.
Okay.
Or no, it's Wes. Sorry, I got a lot of light in my face. A tall gentleman.
Okay.
Who else?
That's enough. That's enough effort.
Okay.
So you have 15 seconds to convince them to join your cult and become a Tony.
Oh.
Go. Someone time it.
I am the leader of the cult. So that's kind of all you need to know, right? And there will be pastries. Is that
Good enough.
Is that
Yeah.
15 seconds?
Yeah. Did someone join?
Anybody?
Someone signed up?
Anyone?
All right. You'll be selling books, and there's a sign-up sheet for the cult.
Okay. There is a cult in the book. People obsessed with tigers.
That's what this is, in case you haven't.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. That's pretty early in though, so that's not really. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, you mentioned the title earlier, and someone asked about Godfall. I've seen it in, well, in the book it's all caps, but the whole book is all caps. But is it officially all caps? This is so important. I know this. Is the title officially all caps?
No.
It's not.
I think officially it's not. This is like the stuff that you don't think about. Like I went through this thing with the publisher where because I ended up having to design the cover.
Oh, okay.
Like mostly design the cover
Yeah,
because it's a small press.
Very small
their
press,
designers are not great. But like I designed it and they're like, oh, so the official title is Godfall: a novel. I'm like, no, just because it says a novel on the cover doesn't mean the title is Godfall.
Well, it would officially be Godfall by Jensen or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, official answer from the author. Not, it doesn't have to be all caps.
Right.
Okay, we lock that one down.
This is the stuff that I love. Like was just having a conversation with my kids of like, is Mario from the Mario Brothers, is his last name Mario because they're called the Mario Brothers?
Is it Mario Mario?
Is it Mario Mario and Luigi Mario? Like, this is the kind of stuff. Like,
That's a good question. Yeah, because
my kids are smart.
they got it. Yeah, and why is it not the Luigi brothers? Right.
That was the question. They're like, why is Luigi getting short
Is
shrift?
there an official answer? Is one of them older?
The answer has changed over years.
Has it?
Yeah, like at points they have said Mario's. This is really important.
You guys had no idea we were going to get this way.
Yeah.
Okay, so Godfall. We're going back to the mystery box.
Uh-oh.
Godfall is a great title,
Thank you.
but for a book. But I'm wondering if it's the best for a TV show.
Okay.
We're just wondering how that, right?
We're workshopping.
We got another game we're going to play here. So you can win. Raise your hand if you like music and warm ears. I know there's more of you. Okay, Ben, you got to pick 3 people to play that did not play the last game.
Okay, we've got Lloyd, we've got Kaylin, and we've got you in the far back. Yep.
Okay, but you got 3.
Yep.
You're gonna win this knitted hat that has Bluetooth speakers built in. There's instructions in here, so don't throw that away because that'll tell you how to make it. Okay, so we had a crack team come up with some alternate TV titles.
Okay.
And the audience is going to vote. And Van has agreed that whatever you guys vote for will be the name of the TV show.
Legally binding.
Legally binding. Oh, so
and whoever wins is a co-producer.
yeah. All right, so if you haven't, these are gonna be some deep cuts. So if you haven't read the book, no spoilers, but if you haven't read the book, you may not be able to follow along. If you have read it, you probably still won't be able to follow along. Okay, so we got first up, I'll tell you all first and then we'll vote. But first we have alternate title. Spire, Pants on Fire. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Right? Okay. We're gonna vote in a second.
Bit of a mouthful.
We have a halved cabbage, which is one of my favorite sayings in the book. We got the internal that's pretty good, catchy. And then last one we got, you guys know about helicopter parents, we have tornado parents. Oh, you like that one?
That's
I
good.
thought Van would like that one. It'll make sense when you guys read it. Okay, so by applause, Spire, Pants on Fire. Oh man, they love it. They love it.
Everyone's so confused.
How is anyone win?
What?
How
Yeah.
is anyone gonna win?
Guys, go with me. Just go with me here. I have cabbage by applause. Oh. Okay. We all win when there's a better title. That's over. Tornado Parents. Have cabbage or tornado. You can do the tiebreaker if you want. I feel like they were pretty even.
I'm gonna go with half cabbage.
Have cabbage. Let's see your titles.
Sounds like the walls are drawn.
Have cabbage. You take the wrong trousers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope someone from Hollywood Reporter was here and captured that moment.
Yes,
That's going to be all over the news.
Who wins the hat?
The what?
Who wins the hat?
Wait.
You got a whole plan for that.
Oh man, I was like, it's so planned out. Oh my god. You decide. That was such a good question.
I think in the back. I mean, come on, grab your files.
You should have been signing one person each of the names. Let's do it again.
Did you have it?
Apparently not. Somehow.
Congratulations. We're you didn't know, we're also workshopping a game show.
So we got a couple more questions. We're gonna get into the Ron Howard stuff because everyone wants to hear about that. And then we do have a microphone over here. We're gonna do some audience Q&A in a minute. No, don't get up yet, but get your answers ready and ask some good ones. He's in the hot seat. Let's talk about the awesomeness in the room, which is the like literal bidding war, and take us through that. And when was the first inkling of it? How long had the book been out before that happened?
So the book had not been out. so I mean, this is like a very small publisher, you know, was truly a just like, I want to get the book out, you know, who knows what happens from there. And so I have this new manager in LA who's been great and like helping me with comic book stuff, but you know, I had told him about the novel and it didn't seem like it really like, you know, there's other stuff he was more excited about.
Right.
So I was getting to the point of promoting it and I sent it to him just as like, hey, do you know anyone who reviews books? Because he's really connected in that world. And he said, oh, yeah, I know some people. And then it was a day later, he texted me, emailed me, he said, I just read this. This is incredible. This is going to sell. Yeah, great dude. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Right.
And then it was like a day after that, he sends me the list of who he's going to send it to. And the first thing on the list is Ridley Scott. And I was just like, yeah, go with God, Danny. Good luck. And so then it's like maybe like a week goes by or 10 days, and I was at work, and he texts me. The text is just 2 words and says, "Buckle up."
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm like, what? And then so we finally get on the phone, and he's like, hey man, like everyone in LA is talking about you, everyone's reading your book, everyone loves it. And I just, you know, immediately I'm like, this is very nice smoke that you're blowing.
Right.
I appreciate it. That's absolutely not true. And he keeps saying it and keeps saying it. And then all of a sudden, like offers start to come in. So it's within like, I think 10 days. And the first offer is from Will Smith's company.
Wow.
Which, you know, like, okay, like that's weird. Like I mean, you know, if that's like the worst case scenario,
Yeah,
that's the only offer we get, like cool. Yeah. And it was just like every day there's another offer. And it just keeps happening. It's like, oh, like so-and-so is gonna bid on so-and-so. And then we just like he just managed everything. He's like, yeah, like it hits this specific thing that at this exact moment, like everyone in LA is looking for this thing, but also it's a book that's written, and I had not intended any of this. Like I never thought it would sell for anything, but he said it's a very cinematic book. Like you write very visually. And so for people out there who also like the writer's strike is going on. So everyone has time to read,
right,
and has time to think about stuff. So it was like perfect storm. Everyone got excited, and it was just kind of off to the races.
And how long was the whole process before you ended up saying, okay, Ron Howard, that's what we're doing to go with? How long was that whole process?
It feels like 3 weeks.
Wow.
It was super fast.
Because there was the initial spur, and then that Hollywood Reporter article came out, and that reignited things.
Yeah, so we got to a point where we had a lot of bids come in, and we had said like, okay, we're like to the final stage, and then this article comes out in the Hollywood Reporter that's like, everyone's bidding on this IP and everyone's going crazy, and then like here are properties like don't even bother bidding on it because bidding's so crazy. And my book is listed there, and it's like multiple sources confirmed, you know,
right.
At least 10 bids for this novel, and again, it hadn't even come out yet. And of course, like I reached out to my manager, like, hey Danny, like, good job planning that article. He's like, no, like I'm as shocked as you are.
Oh, really?
So then that just like there's this flood of new, you know, people interested in it, and so that like that alone, just like that happening at that stage, made me a lot of money.
Because it was like, yeah.
Because then, you know, it's like groupthink. Like everyone's like this guy's a genius. Like,
right.
I'm the same exact. Like, I was a genius 5 years ago when I wrote it, I guess. But no, like I'm the same person. But it's just once something becomes a thing that people are excited about, then you know, everyone wants it.
And there was that thing too of like, you know, the perfect storm, and of like if your original lit agent had not sat on it for 2 years, it could have come out 4 years ago or however long ago, and maybe nothing happened. You know, it's like amazing, perfect timing.
Yeah, I mean, I always, you know, it's like you have to have skill, you have to work really hard, and you have to have luck. And like creative careers, there's always going to be good luck, there's always going to be bad luck, there's going to be way more bad luck than good luck. Like, there's going to be so much amazing stuff. I mean, I can't tell you like the number of amazing life-changing things that have not happened, right? And there were points where you're like, oh, like it's never going to happen. And I think that if anything, like if there's any superpower that I have, it's like stubbornness. Like, nah, man, Like every bit of logic would say like, dude, stop. Like, just like do anything else with your life. And I'm like, yeah, I feel like I can't. No, get this dumb, but keep writing books.
And it's like, yeah, just no one really ever knows. And like, even like you said, even your manager wasn't sure he was even excited about it as compared to other things you had going on. And I'm sure he's very excited about it at this point.
Yeah.
You guys wanna, if anyone has questions, let's start lining up. I did wanna ask about, that means, someone line up. Jen, last minute you had a specific question you wanted to ask, so you can go ahead and line up. Lane, please line up.
We can chat amongst ourselves.
I could go over there and ask you a question. Yeah, talking about amazing things that haven't happened along the years, and talk a little more about that idea of weathering not only disappointments, but like flat out rejections along the way, and just what that does to your psyche and how you get through it. Has that always been? You may have answered it a second ago. Has that always been part of your body or part of the way you work, or have you kind of built up calluses over the years? Or
So I was really fortunate. Freshman in college, I started working at, there was a daily student print newspaper. It was 5 days a week, like 100-person staff, like it's really big operation. It was at University of Nebraska, and I went in and got a job there as a sports reporter, and it's genuinely like, I had no idea what I was doing. You know, every other kid like went to a school that like their high school had a student newspaper, and
right.
I, you know, none of that.
You didn't do any of that with
No, like we didn't have that.
Oh, I see. You didn't even have it.
No, no, not in my, you know, my graduating class of 22 people.
Whoa, was that small?
Yeah, well, so my freshman class, before my high school closed after my freshman year, my freshman class, 3 kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I came in, I sucked, man. Like I was bad. And I genuinely, like, the editor would be like, hey, like try to write this again, but without being terrible. And so I had like a year where I was just like almost in tears, like in this office full of people, like, oh, really bad. Like, am I ever gonna learn how to write? I thought it was so good. Like I was the smartest kid in my town. It's like meaningless. And so then just like really struggling and like getting the crap kicked out of me. That was bad. Like it was bad. And I had people thankfully that told me that.
Yeah.
And finally like pushed my way through that. So, you know, with all of this, like it's like say like the lit agent, like not reading the book, like that annoyed me just because it's like, dude, if you don't want to work with me, just tell me you don't want to work with me. Like I'm cool with that.
Right.
But like don't like let's not like do a pretend dance thing, wasting each other's time. But yeah, I mean, you know, anytime like that I get a note or that there's a review that's got something harsh in it, like there's something that I wrote that, well, there's a time where like there are always gonna be things that just like don't connect with that person or like get a weird read or whatever, but there's genuine stuff where there was something that I wrote that wasn't clear enough, that didn't come across in a powerful enough way or like a smart enough way. So even if I don't disagree with, or if I disagree with the specific suggestion of, because you get like bad suggestions all the time,
Right.
like, oh, just do this.
Right.
Well, no, that's terrible. But it points out to me that like there's something that can be better.
Mm-hmm.
So I welcome those. Like I worked with an editor on a comic book once, and the creative team, like he would just respond great to everything. He's like, that's great. And so we had this joke, we're like, oh, like we call it, like he's Fred, he's great. Because like we're like, this could be better. Like,
yeah,
this book could be better if you like actually looked at it with a discerning eye.
Right. I think we have a question.
Yeah. So how frustrated were you that you had already planned your whole home renovation before the life-changing deal? And how hard did you work on like stripping and saving on that budget? It's good timing, right?
Yeah, there were definitely some finishing stages of like Like what that's gonna cost, whatever. Yeah, I don't know, like, we're not putting the pool in, or are you asking if you can come over the pool? In our backyard?
That's it, I've got 5 more questions.
That's an amazing.
My more realistic question, is, I noticed in here you talk about your work, I noticed before, I'm gonna say. It's quite, it makes a self-deprecating thing, but you do sort of have like a binary way of talking about good and bad writing. And your own work as being bad if it doesn't work, and or good or great. Just tell me a little bit about what you sort of like, what is that for you in terms of seeing work that is like, as you're describing it, objectively bad versus sort of maybe more of an open-ended, creative, you know, there is some bad, there's some good. It doesn't seem like that's the latter there is actually sort of how you see things. Tell me more about that.
That's a great question. So I see writing as chiseling a sculpture. And there are these ideas or conceptions or strings of words or visions. Like sometimes I'll see a scene of something that comes into my mind and I start working on it. And even individual sentences, like I'm saying them out loud as I'm writing, I'm saying them in my head, and every time I'm just like knocking a bit of rough edge off of it. And I want it, like I want to flow in a certain way. I want to have a certain nice shape to it. I want it to have like overall aesthetic features. Like I want there to be artistry to that thing. But it's really, it's very intangible, but it is like, I just want it to feel smooth. And like I know when it's not. And if it's not, I just like I'll obsess over it. And I have like every book that I have that comes out, at the point that it comes out, you know, everyone, they're always like, oh, like, you gotta be so happy, like you're so thrilled, like you got a book out. Like, well, one, like I wrote this ages ago, so like whatever.
Right.
But two, like over the course of writing something, I feel like I always progress as a writer. Like I get better at feeling like how to do that shaping, or like what that smoothness actually means to me. And so then I'm just seeing all the rough bits. And so when I talk about that, like it's not, I mean, there are people, you know, other writing out there that I can be critical of, but mostly it's me focusing on myself. Like I'm very self-critical. You know, I endeavor to be great in the things I do. And I know when I fall short of that.
Do you know do you finish a project and like this is it, this is the best possible version, or do you abandon them because at some point you have to move on to the next project?
I mean, I always want to get stuff done and like get it. Like I look at this as like commerce, right? Like, you know, I want stuff to get done, I want it to get made, I want it to get out, I want it, like the purpose is to get stories in front of people.
Right.
So there is like, you know, it's that done beats perfect.
Right.
And there's like every writer, like I'm reading The Unwritten World and The Written World, which is this new collection of Calvino essays. I mean, it's old writing, like he's been dead. Spoiler alert. Since 1982. But you know, he literally last night I was reading a passage of his about how like every single thing, like he writes because of the promise and the possibility of writing the perfect thing that he will never achieve.
Right. But it's the process of trying to do it.
Yeah.
You have a question?
Yeah, I was just wanting to get my friends to buy your book, so I looked it up on Amazon and it was classified under flyover fiction. Does it have to do with Nebraska being a flyover state?
Yeah, so that's the publisher, or the imprint of the publisher is called Flyover Fiction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it's good. I'm gonna be flying to Seattle, so I'll fly over and
You wave down in Nebraska.
So that's not a category of type of book.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
That's the name. Okay. I think that's what you did.
Hey, so you're not the first writer, so I'm not creative at all.
I am not.
You're not the first writer.
I'm not creating at all, and I don't, like, I'm not a writer, but you're not the first writer that I've heard that has said, well, you know, it creates itself, so like, sometimes it's in, like, I heard one writer come through and she ends up, this idea that she had ended up being poetry. She tried to write it as a novel and it didn't come out that way, it just came out better as poetry. You were saying earlier, like, that you tried it as a comic book and now it worked as a novel. So now, obviously, thinking of our kids, right? What's your thoughts on how we teach that to our kids, that like that creative energy? If it doesn't work in this format, it's okay to try it in something else, like in another way, because I don't know, it might be an impossible question, especially at the age they're at, but I just was curious.
Well, so I have the benefit of knowing that you're an awesome mom. So I think that your kids are gonna be well handled to do amazing stuff. Okay, so here's a little bit of a metaphysical answer, which this is gonna sound strange, but I genuinely believe it. All the stuff that I write, I think already exists, and then I'm finding it. Like that's generally the way that it feels in my experience of it. Like everything, it feels like, yeah.
A lot of people believe that. Like, if you read Rick Rubin's book,
Yeah.
Creativity, I mean, that's his whole thing. It's like, it's already there. You're just tuning into it and pulling it down in your format. I mean, that's why you'll get movies. That's why you get 2 asteroid movies. Like,
Right.
You know, this came out.
Yeah.
It's in the zeitgeist. It's in there.
Yeah. So, I kind of think with kids, that it's really just about giving kids the space to be bored and like having the tools on hand, which is why I say, like, y'all are great parents. Like, I know that you do that. Like, it's, and I'm not one of those parents who's like, oh, no screen time or no video games. Like, I think consuming stories and even playing video games or, you know, whatever, like that has value. But there's also a ton of value in just having a sheet of paper in front of you that can become whatever. And then there's such cool stuff now to where if, you know, when I was a kid, like I was interested in comic books. I was making my own comic books, writing and drawing my own comic books as a kid, but I had no access to anything. Like I didn't, you know, for all I knew, it was like Santa Claus that made comic books. It was
Right.
absolutely abstract. So there was no like path for me to go from like, oh, like I'm literally making comic books to like, I can just keep doing this and keep progressing and then do it as a thing. Like it had to be this like, you know, walked away from comics and then circuitously like fell backwards into doing comic books. But now, you know, it's like, if your kids show interest in anything, like there's an online tutorial to show them how to do it. And so, yeah, like you know, like my favorite thing in the world is sitting around with these goofs and drawing monsters. Like it's the best. Hey.
I'm reading a book called This Is Your Brain on Art, and I'll give you the takeaway. You don't have to read the book. The takeaway is there's so many beautiful, amazing benefits to your brain doing art, and the big takeaway is you don't even have to be good at what you're doing. Just the act of doing it, it's just amazing for your body and your brain.
One of my favorite, there's so many Vonnegut quotes that I love, but one of them, I'm not going to get exactly right, but there's some interview he did where he was talking about when he was in high school, there was like, they had a theater program, this really accomplished high school theater program. And this you know, big, I don't know, it's like a producer or a director or whatever, like some big theater mucky muck from New York City, like comes to Ohio to work down and is like, just kind of like on hand as they're putting together a production. And there's some point where, you know, high school age Kurt Vonnegut gets a chance to talk to this guy, and the guy says, okay, like, you know, who are you? You know, what are you into? And so Vonnegut's, he's like, oh, I play violin, but real poorly, and I do this, I'm not very good at it, and I do that, and I'm not, and he just like goes through, he's like, and the guy's like, well, who cares that you're not good at it?
Right.
Like, that's not the point. Like, that's great. Like, you should have a life full of just like richness for doing a bunch of stuff that it just gives you some joy.
Yeah.
Like the end. like, excellence is not, like, that is not the point of everything, which I love.
Make art. For art's sake.
Yeah, so as you think about, you know, in your book, you probably have a very visual idea of what it looks like in your head. I'm curious how that process will translate, kind of actually putting it into a visual medium and how you feel about that. Because it's never going to be exactly how it's in your head and what that process might look for you, how you feel about it.
I mean, I'm totally gonna boss Ron Howard. So that's the subtext there. Yeah, I mean, I kind of, so I'll be executive producer on the show. So, you know, I'll have some say, I'll have some involvement. But I also, like, the last thing I want to do is be like so in the weeds and so like demanding and connected that either like it gums up the process or that I'm spending all my time doing that. Like, I've just unlocked this magic thing where I can write books, like write novels and make money doing it.
Right.
Like I'm gonna do part of that.
Right. Right.
You know, like I've like I don't want to do the George R.R. Martin thing.
I think
Too soon.
your involvement with the show, I'm sure will be positive and make it better, but I guarantee you, if you just went away and had nothing to do with it, Ron Howard's gonna make an amazing show out of your book.
Yeah.
So you have that to fall back on.
Yeah, there are great people involved, and I like the big thing for me in staying involved with it is there are so many really stereotypical lame depictions of rural America. And like this is not to say that like rural America should not be critiqued. It absolutely should be. I just think that most of the stuff that you see that depicts rural America gets like nothing right about it, and it doesn't feel earnest in any way, and that's because it's written by people who have never, like, have no experience with rural America. So that's what I really like. I want it to feel genuinely like a part of this community and real to those people and their experience, because I just think that's like a huge section of the world that doesn't see a realistic iteration of themselves appear on a screen ever.
Right.
Except for in ruckus and lightning sky.
We have a question.
Do you like, the book that you made?
Do I like the book that I made?
Are you proud of it?
Aww. I am proud of it. You know what? I had to go through and edit it right before it came out. And so I haven't just sat down and read it. And I'm kind of scared to read it because I'm guessing that there's going to be stuff that I think should be better. But I do need to sit down and read it just to try to enjoy it. But yeah, no, I mean, I was a little kid that dreamed of making comic books and like movies and books and stuff, and I get to do it. Like you know, like literally the dream thing that I had when I was a little kid, like I get to do. It's kind of the coolest thing ever.
Thank you for the question. Very good. What's the wrapping down?
I think I mean, unless, I don't know if the box holds any deeper mystery.
Run on papers.
Does anyone want the tiger mask?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna give this away and Van will sign it for you. Did you see the note on it?
Oh, the note is right in front.
There were your face.
It says hi.
It says hi, man. It's not like red as you put it on. What? Okay, I will ask because of the bidding wars, you took a lot of pitches, and what specifically about Ron Howard made you go, okay, this is the guy, this is the team that should.
It was just a combination of you know, like Ron was agreeing to direct it, but also he and all the producers like had read the book, really knew the book inside and out, really loved the book, like had this clear vision of how to translate it to what it means. And so, you know, there are people who in their dealings with Hollywood is like, give me the most money that I can get right now, right? But there's also like, you know, I was gonna make a nice chunk of change any which way. But like if the show actually gets made, then that's like exponentially life changing
Right.
in every way. So it's really like, okay, like number one, my rule is, and I told my manager this, is like, I don't want to work with jerks. This is me self-editing. And so there were people who came and tried to bid for the book that my manager said no, because he knows that they're bad people.
Ah, that's nice.
And like, cause it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Like it's
Right.
It's not.
Right.
So then it was that, like, work with good people, work with people who really love the book and are passionate about it. And then we're like, the odds are best of the show actually get made.
Right. There's been countless like spec scripts that have been bought for large amounts of money, and then the movie never got made.
Oh yeah, like Hollywood, the thing that Hollywood is the best at is not making stuff.
Right. And then, was there one specific, like, I'm trying to think, was there more than one call with Ron directly, or was it one call where you said?
What, so we have one call, and then he was like, it was the next day he was leaving for Australia to shoot a feature.
Mhm.
And he was not, I don't know how he ended up even like getting the book in front of him, because he was like in pre-pro and just happened to like
Wow.
decide to read the book.
Yeah.
And it was like, I have to do this call.
Right,
I have
right,
to talk
right.
to Van.
Right.
So yeah, it was very quick, and then he was off to do it. But yeah, it was like a week later that we finalized the deal.
Okay. Maybe there's not I'm trying to force this out of you. Was there
Like,
one thing that he said, or one little moment where you're like, in your head, you're like, oh, you know, or was it just the whole conversation?
Like, he started off the conversation asking about my family, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the sweetest,
Yeah.
like most, because it's the thing that I do when I'm gonna work with someone else, like say it's like an artist that I'm thinking about working on a comic book with, like, let's go on a Zoom and let's talk about anything other than making comic books. Because I want to get to know who you are as a human being.
Mhm.
Because if we can't get along with each other,
Right.
this is gonna be terrible. And it's like whatever we accomplish will not be worth it. It's just like working with people that you don't enjoy, especially on some like creative projects, like it's bad news. So that's always my strategy, is like, I just want to get to know this person. And so then to have him start where then he's asking me questions where it's clear, like he's just trying to get to know me and to see, like, am I a person that he would connect with? So I was like, oh, like he thinks about this the same way that I do. This is really cool. And then, yeah, and it was like, again, like I never know, are people just blowing smoke? But after the call, his producers reach out to my manager and then tell me, they're like, yeah, like Ron was just like walking around the halls of Imagine saying like, oh, I like that band guy. Like I hope we get this. I want to work with him. Like, I really like that guy. And I'm like, oh, I like you too, Ron Howard.
Because he's famously nice.
Yeah. What's that? Oh, yeah, he was so just like so nice,
Yeah.
so sweet. I met with a lot of really cool people. It was a very hard choice. There were, you know, any decision would have been a good decision. It was just what's the best decision.
So is there anything official you're allowed to say is like yet lined up, or like is there a showrunner yet, or is there anything like, or is it also kind of nebulous? You're not allowed to say, can't say. Soon. Okay.
Yeah.
What else? Anything else? I think we're getting close on time. Anyone last chance for questions? I think Lane had one. It was a good one.
So you're really good at making time for writing, and I'm just curious, what is your process when you sit down for that 90 minutes? Like, how do you prepare yourself to be that writing?
I do a crossword puzzle first. I don't know.
Do you really?
Yeah, I don't know if that's like a secret trick as much as I just like, I got really obsessed during the pandemic with timing my New York Times like crossword puzzle.
Well, how long do you have to do it?
Well, it depends on the day of the week because they get harder.
Right.
But you know, like I can do a Monday in like 3 to 4 minutes.
Did you set a timer?
It has it like on the site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm a nerd.
But see, you're also then you're setting yourself up with a mini timing session of doing something creative and then.
Yeah.
You're going into that.
Yeah, and then, yeah, it's just, I mean, it's really like creating, I think the biggest thing is like, I need to create a space where I just absolutely know that no one is going to intrude on. And so, you know, it's like, it's why it's hard to work at home, where it's like, that door could open and there could be this very benign, like, hey, fold the laundry, or, you know, whatever it is. And it's just like knowing that no one will open that door. Like, no one will knock on the door. Like, no one will be able to reach me for this little bit, and I can like transport my brain into this other world and like truly inhabit that. And then, so it's like knowing that I've like vacuum sealed myself off first. And then, yeah, it's like, okay, like what's something that I can do that's going to take 5 minutes to just like get my brain a little bit limber. And then it's truly just that, like, well, I could stare at a wall or I could just crank through this. And writing, I mean, I don't know about y'all, like, I don't love writing the vast majority of the time. Like, when you guys write, is it just like, oh my gosh, this is great, I love it?
No, it's occasionally that way.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, one every like 4 days, 5 days,
Yeah.
I feel like.
I don't hate it, but you love the process of having done the work.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't do anything else, but I always think of, like, my stereotypical idea of, like, remember the movie Swordfish, like the terrible John Travolta, like, movie? And there's a scene, like, Hugh Jackman is a hacker, and there's a scene where he's hacking, and he's, like, standing up at his keyboard, and he's just like,
It's the best thing that ever.
yeah, he's like, like, this is so, I love hacking so much. and it's like the stupidest thing. And I always do this, like, that's my idea. Like, when I just want to have one of those, like, Hugh Jackman and Swordfish writing, where I just writing like, I love this. And basically never.
But sometimes it happens.
Yeah, but you know, there are days where like you do something that's like, hey, like I just amused myself with that bit, or like, oh, like there was something tricky that I figured out. But it's way more mundane than just like, oh, magical experience.
Right. Well, it's different for us because we're a team too. So if I think it's something funny, I'll run in and tell her, and then I get a little dopamine hit or whatever.
Yeah, and you guys work in different rooms.
We do. Yeah, we work in different rooms and text each other.
You have like, you can like tie a message to the cat. Send the cat back and forth.
Yeah, we should set up a string of 2 tin cans. Well, I guess we're about to wrap up. Are you allowed to discuss? Is there going to be a sequel to the book? Are you writing another?
Yeah, so you know, again, this was a very small press book. I had no idea whether there would be like enough financial success with it to merit the sequel, but you know, I left space where there's like more that could be explored. But there will be a sequel. Like, now things have changed. So yeah, starting like I'm kind of wrapping up a big thing that I've been doing, but January 1st, starting work on the sequel.
And it will be called, what is it? Godfall: a half cabinet. Correct?
It will be called Headwaters. True. No one knows that.
Oh, really? Is that, we just got a scoop?
Scoop.
Oh, we all have to sign the NDA on the way out the door.
Yeah.
So Van's gonna be signing books, and there's books for sale out there, and thank you so much for asking me to hang out. This was fun. Who wants the tiger? The first one to come get the tiger gets to keep it. Or will we beg you? Someone please take the tiger.
You guys can share.
Thank you guys. Thanks everyone for coming out.
Thank you. I need to return the favor.
Special thing.